I'm Jeremy Bowen with Varsity Franchising, and I'm a franchise consultant. Today I want to talk to you about our process, and why it's a little different, and why you should trust it. Our first conversation is going to be a 15 to 20 minute introductory conversation. Do they go over? Yes, but very rarely. First, we want to find out, what's your background? What have you got going on? How did you get to where you are? All of that is very important into what you're about to do next. We want to figure out what made you think, I might want to go into business for myself. Were you sitting at your desk and all of a sudden you got mad at your boss and you just said, dang it, I'm going to start my own business? Or was it something that had been nagging you for months and you're just sitting there going, I know I could do this myself and I could have more control and I could put more money in my pocket because I know that my value here isn't as much as it could be for myself. Lots of reasons out there, but that's what that first call is about. The second part of that conversation is me kind of giving you a little bit of background about where we're coming from and where I personally am coming from and what kind of background I have so that you understand when I start talking about things that I've been there. I've got the expertise. I've been an entrepreneur. I've been in franchising. I've owned a license. I worked for the largest corporation on the planet. I have done all of those things and I use all the bits and pieces that I've learned over the last 30 plus years to go in and help my clients be in the best position they can be to start their own business. The next stage, I'll say, hey, are you ready to move forward? Is this something you think you want to go forward with? Or is it something that you think, okay, now that I've heard it, I'm probably not right for it? Or is it something that you're going, maybe it's going to be right for me, but it's just not right now? All of those are great answers. And they're perfectly fine. We're not going to push you in a corner. We're not trying to push you down a road. We're going to accept whatever you're going to want to do. Our job is not to send you somewhere. Our job is to advise you and make sure that you have the best experience throughout the entire process and that you can truly walk away saying that we were a trusted advisor. So after that first call, if you want to go to the next step is we're going to have you do a business skills profile. We're going to have you do a confidential questionnaire. All of these things are round numbers trying to give us more background than what we got in that first 20 minutes. And so it's given us some financial background. It's given us some credit background. It's given us some background on what is your best role for a business. And then that's going to lead into that next conversation. Probably 45 minutes to an hour, usually closer to 45 minutes, but who knows? It just depends on how things go. What we want to do is we want to make sure that the answers to those questionnaires and that assessment come back and they're congruent with what you feel. So if something says, hey, if we go back and the assessment says, hey, this person's perfectly suited for outside sales, they love going and knocking on doors and meeting new people every day. And then you go, I hate meeting new people. I don't want to talk to anybody ever. Then all of a sudden we know there's some kind of disconnect there. We try to figure out what that is. But for the most part, what we find is that what comes through on the sheets comes back to be more accurate when we have that next conversation. So from that conversation, we're trying to build a little more in-depth get to know you. So that's where we are. So we're trying to figure out, okay, so who is this person? What drives them? We also start talking about goals, motivations. What are you trying to get to? So if you're trying to start a small business or you're trying to start a business, what are your goals? Are you trying to replace your income at your corporate job? Are you trying to double it or triple it? Are you trying to take more time off? You're going, hey, my kid's game starts at 6. My commute ends at 7. I don't like that. What are your goals? Where are you trying to get? What's your end game? Then we also start talking about exit strategy and things like that. So it's, hey, I'm trying to do something. I'm going to go out here. I'm going to build this thing up for 5 years. I'm going to flip it and sell it. And then we'll figure out what I'm going to do next then. Or is it something where I'm going to try to get into a business model where, hey, I'm going to buy into this. My kids will be out of college in 5 years. And then maybe I offer them an opportunity to come back here and be part of the family business. And this becomes a family franchise. Or maybe I buy them a franchise of their own. And so we start talking about all of those different aspects in that next conversation. And that brings us into the next step, which is determining what the brands are going to be. So at that point, when we finish that conversation, you meet the only obligation that I require. So you never pay me a dime, period, as a consultant. But the one thing I do require is before I go out and start researching brands, which at a minimum is probably going to be 30 hours per client. Honestly, it's probably double that if I had to guess. Because I require that if we present a brand to you, that you at least have a conversation with them. Because a lot of times people look at it, trust me, I've got a client that I went to that a very good client, and I promise you, I'd have to ask him if he has the time, but if he has the time, he will get on the phone with you and he'll say, if you'll trust Jeremy's process, it'll work with you and you're going to be so much happier on the back end rather than trying to come back and say, no, I don't want to do this because of what they do for a living. I remember our first brand presentation and I talked to him, and the first brand that I presented was a fencing brand. He goes, I'll never own a fencing brand. If I wanted to own a fencing company, I'd go to Home Depot and Lowe's and I'd buy some lumber and start digging holes. And lo and behold, he got 4 concepts. He loved all 4 concepts. He ended up owning a fencing company. A couple of other funny stories in there, but we'll keep those for another day. So anyways, when we're talking about this portion of it, the only thing that I require is that if we present something to you, you will have the conversation with the brand, because we're not presenting this to you because we're trying to push a brand on you. We're presenting it to you because we feel like that brand has value to you. It has several things that can help you get to where you're going. They have similar values, and it's a good brand for you to be associated with. It's going to help you get to your goals, help them get to their goals, and you're going to be happy there. So from that point, now we've introduced you to franchisors. At that point, you're talking to franchisors, and in between, you're talking to us. So we talk to you before the calls. We inform you and educate you on things that are going to be coming forward on the next call, things you need to ask about, introducing you to terms like FDD, which is the franchise disclosure document, introducing you to portions of that document where you really need to pay attention because they're going to give it to you and you're supposed to review it. We're also going to inform you, it's like, hey, here's your financing options. Here's somebody in financing that can help you. Here's somebody in legal that can help you. Here's a franchise attorney that can help you. We're going to give you all of those different things. And yes, we're going to tell you, what? You've got a personal injury attorney? Yeah, let's not have him look over your franchise document. Let's actually get with a franchise attorney. It is important. Franchising is that specific. There's a reason the federal government regulates it so heavily. It's because if you don't do the proper research and you're not properly educated, it can be very easy for you to get into something that you don't know about. That's why franchise consultants don't charge their clients anything, is because we don't want you to not ask us the questions. We're here as a resource. At that point, though, we'll have a conversation before you have a meeting. Once you meet with a franchise development rep, then we want to have a conversation after that meeting too. It may be 5 or 10 minutes, or maybe it's just an email back going, hey, this is what we talked about. Guess what? I'm going to have a conversation with them as well, because a lot of times you may be in the same room with somebody, listen to the same conversation, and come away and have 2 different perspectives after the conversation. I'm there to not be in that room, but to be able to take each side back and make sure everybody's on the same page. And so it lets me continue to be impartial, but to represent you well by giving you the information before you go to meet with them. And then if there's something that comes back and it's a problem, I can identify it and we can make sure we're all on the next page before we go to the next step. At every stage through that process, we're doing that same thing. We're having a prep meeting. Again, doesn't have to be an hour. It may be 15 minutes. It may just be an email saying, hey, here's the things you need to be thinking about. They're going to give you the cost numbers, and then they're going to show you some territories that are going to have revenues. You're going to want to do a pro forma on this, but you're going to have to do it on your own because you have to come to those numbers independently. They give you all the basic numbers. You actually put it in the spreadsheet. Those kind of things, absolutely here to help in any way we can. We don't represent any one franchise. That's why we get to be impartial. We can help with all of those things right there. It's also why when we're having the conversation before we introduce you to the franchisor, we don't give you actual numbers. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you, well, their LA franchise did $500,000 in revenue last year, because I don't work for the franchise. I'm giving you last year's numbers at best when I say that, so I don't give you those numbers. I give you everything. I tell you I've looked at it, and I promise you at that point, if I recommend a brand, I've looked at their numbers and their numbers make sense. But you want to hear it directly from the horse's mouth. That's exactly how we do it. We explain everything in the process. And then, like I said, we prepare you for the next meeting. You go to the meeting, we have a debrief, and then I debrief with them. We make sure everybody's on the same page. We determine whether it's a right fit or not. And I'm telling you, if we're going to present 3 or 4 brands to you, at some point we're going to have to break up with somebody. I mean, I haven't had it yet. I hadn't had anybody go out there and pick every brand and say, okay, I'm going to get 4 franchises. We're starting tomorrow. You're going to have to break up with somebody. Sometimes we're there to help with that too. So we are there throughout the entire process, all the way through the financing and things like that, so that you can call us with questions and say, hey, I'm filling out this. Is this the right thing? Like, okay, well, if we have a question, we can always put you in touch with the funding people, but we help you with all of that as well. Again, don't do any of that for you, but can help you put the information into where you need to get it. And then at that point, once you get to the point where you're doing, when you're going to discovery day, again, informing you, but then once we get past that, once you get to the day where you're doing signing day, then we all have a big celebration. And everybody enjoys it because they know it's supposed to be a little bit of nervousness right there. If this is a little too comfortable, then we get a little worried, and we try to have a little conversation and find out, okay, well, if you've done this, if you already started your business 3 or 4 times, that's one thing. Maybe you are very comfortable with this. But if you're leaving corporate America and you're going to start your own business for the first time, you're supposed to have some butterflies. It's not supposed to be panic. It's supposed to be butterflies. Kind of like starting a new job. You know you're going to do fine. It's just a matter of, hey, I've never done this. Tomorrow will be my first day. So we're there to kind of do and take care of those types of situations as well. So when you're going, hey, I'm freaked out, then we can have a conversation about why you're freaked out and if it's something that we need to worry about, or if it's something that, hey, you're just freaked out because you haven't done this. This is perfectly normal. Lean on me for a minute. I got you. And so that is our process through the whole system. And then once you get back to the bag, like I said, once you buy your franchise, then we're all there. And we don't dump you at that point. We still answer questions. We still are business advisors. We've done this before in lots of capacities, and this is what we do for a living. So yes, once you sign those papers and you become a franchisee, we're still out here. Technically, I guess we're still your franchise consultant in that capacity, but we're here. We don't leave our clients. We build relationships with the franchisors, and then we build relationships with our clients, and we like to keep them both. Even if we're not looking at repeat business here, we still want to work with our clients. We still want them to go out there and give us referrals and go out and tell stories and say, man, the best thing I ever did was work with Jeremy as a franchise consultant or Varsity as a franchise consulting firm. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. These are the ways that we do business. These are the ways that we like to serve our clients. And we do it a little different because it's just how we do things. We like to care about our clients. We like to build relationships.